All right, so let's start in child's pose today. And early in the morning, this can actually feel incredibly intense. Even though it's more of a resting pose, it can be intense anyway if you're a little tighter. So if there's tenderness on your knees, I suggest taking a blanket, putting that underneath you to give you a little cushioning. So I'll show you that setup. Like so. And then also, sometimes it feels really good starting out to give yourself a little support so you don't have to melt back so far. And then, because things are rickety in the morning, it might also feel nice to rest your head on a block. And then play with your arms, what feels good. So it might feel nice to kind of let them lengthen out. Sometimes it feels really good to bring them by the side. Your shoulders sort of dip down a little bit. And then go ahead and take a nice deep inhale here. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, ha. And then just start to find the rhythm of your breath. So that inhale through your nose, that exhale through your nose. And it might take a moment or two to find this rhythm, this evenness of the breath. Sometimes it helps to count the breath. So inhaling to 5 or 6, and then exhaling to that same number. So this breath is lovely. It gives us something to focus our attention on. It starts to warm our body up, which is lovely on these chilly October mornings. So just here for a few more moments. You'll notice that your attention wanders sometimes. So you get distracted by sounds happening in the room. You get distracted by the sounds happening in your head. It's really hard to turn our brains off. So just kind of smile at that. Maybe notice any repetitive thoughts that come up. And then you could just visualize them, putting them on a cloud and then just watching it drift out. So the sky becomes blue. Let's find a little twist here in this child's pose. So if your arms are by your side, you reach them forward. And then just start to walk your arms off to the right. So you're laying your belly out over that right side. You don't have to go very far here at all. And again, yoga feels different in our bodies early in the morning. So less is more. You might find that it takes a little longer to sort of feel a sense of ease. Come back to center. And then walk off to the left. So finding that gentle twist, you're just rolling your right ribs towards that left thigh. You can even start to look to the left with your head. Find that breath again if you've lost it. So we do. So we're always reminding ourselves to dip into that ujjayi again. Good, walk back to center. And then we're gonna slowly start to roll up, which is gonna feel like a sigh of relief. Again, child's pose can be very intense for a lot of us, even though it's considered to be this resting pose. It's a big hip stretch. It's a big spine stretch. And for some of us, just depending on how we're built or how we're feeling on any given day, that can feel really intense. So we're gonna go ahead and come to Sukhasana, so a comfortable seat. And I do recommend sitting on a blanket, especially if you are a little tighter, this pelvic girdle in the hips. So that just gives you a little lift so you can get that lengthening through your spine. And let's take our right shin in front of our left shin. So we move towards crossing in the center. That doesn't always happen. It's fine if you're a little bit wider. And of course, if your knees are up way high, maybe sit a little taller. Okay, so we're gonna take just a very gentle hip stretch forward fold here. Maybe have a block in front of you. Actually, maybe have 2 blocks if you have 2 blocks. If you don't, that's fine too. Inhale, reach the arms up. Hold here for a couple of breaths. Notice if the shoulders have crept up around your ears. You're releasing them down your back. You can take your arms as wide as you need to here to help bring those elbows to straight. And actually, sometimes that just feels really good starting out. Energetically exhale down into your sit bones so you're feeling this deep-rooted feeling. Hold on to that. And as you exhale, you start to hinge forward at your waist, coming into this gentle little hip stretch. So again, we often do this pose more towards the end of class when we're pretty warm. So this doesn't have to be deep. Hands on blocks is really nice. If you're a little more flexible, Tanya, you might be able to rest your head on a block. And then start to pay attention to the sensations happening in your body. Where are you getting this stretch? So you could be feeling pretty intense stretch in this right hip. You might even be feeling some pressure on that, the side of the left foot that's pressing down. So all these little things happening in our body. And one of the beautiful things about yoga is that we really key into the idea of paying attention to those sensations, noticing. And as we get better at identifying them, we start to make little changes to help us feel more comfortable. All right, so as you inhale, we're gonna take another little twist here. So don't have to go very far. And Dad, especially with hernia stuff, just go nice and easy, nice and gentle. Doesn't have to be this deep twist. Start to wrap these left ribs down. And you're gonna feel this nice stretch through that left side of the waist. I'm getting a little stretch in the shoulder, which feels really good. Maybe try to lengthen your neck out a little bit. Gaze just towards the floor. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose. All right, so upright yourself a little bit. Left fingertips come to the floor. If you have your block, you can move it off to the side. So hand presses there, it can press down into your mat. Root into this left sit bone. So find that feeling of really anchoring down, and then we're gonna take this left arm up and over. And the more you start to root into that left sit bone, the more you get this beautiful lengthening and stretch. And then we start to twist the opposite way in our torso. So you start to wrap those right ribs up towards the ceiling. And the neck, especially in the morning, can be really rickety. Sometimes we sleep weird. So you can just gaze forward. Maybe you can start to bring your gaze up underneath that arm. If you go there and it doesn't feel good, you just come on out. You can walk this right hand out as much as feels good. You might eventually come to your forearm. Doesn't matter if you get there. Good. From here, inhale up. Take a moment, notice how you feel. And then we're going to take that to the second side. So extend your legs, give them a little shake out, and then we recross with our left shin in front. And notice how this side feels different. It might be subtle. Typically, there's one side that feels much easier than the other. So make any adjustments that you need. You can remove blankets. You can add. Anchor down into your sit bone. Make sure that your shoulder blades are releasing down your back and there's not this big arch in your lower back. So you're stacking your shoulders over your sit bones. Inhale. Arms reach, take up space, take a few breaths here. Just imagine that somebody is gently pulling up on your wrist and maybe you start to bring your gaze up. You could imagine that you're outside doing this right now in the crispy autumn air. October, best month ever. And then we start to hinge forward at our waist, folding in, using blocks. Hands, fingertips can be on the floor. Doesn't have to be a deep forward fold. So we're just being really gentle about this. Find your breath again if you've lost it. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling to your nose. The sound is audible to you. Sending that breath to the outer left hip, especially that exhale. It's just sweeping out any cobwebs. It's helping you to introduce a little space into that area that's tight, a little ease. Good, and then we start to find that twist to the left. So again, doesn't have to be deep. Make sure that you're still pressing evenly into both sit bones. Then maybe start to just let your neck lengthen. So you're gazing down. You might start to twist those right ribs towards that left thigh ever so gently. And then you're paying attention to where the sensations have shifted into your body. So we practice this idea of noticing, of observing on our mats. But interestingly, maybe not so interesting, but we start to take that out into the world. So we become aware of how we're holding ourselves in space when we're out doing our lives. And we can make little changes so that we feel better. So this is a really valuable tool to develop. Okay, so we're gonna find that little lateral stretch to the right side. So move your right or left block off to the left, or you can press down into your palm. Anchor into that right sit bone. It wants to lift up. Imagine that you have a sandbag on that thigh. Start to extend that right arm up and over. I don't know about you guys, but this feels, it kind of hurts so good, honestly, but I'm liking it. You can spin the pinky side of that right finger down towards the mat. It's like you're gonna spin your palm to face behind you, so you're getting lots of length. Maybe you begin to bring your gaze up if it feels okay in your neck to do so. The breath hasn't skipped a beat. Couple more here. Really notice how good it feels on that inhale. Notice that expansion of your rib cage. It's this three-dimensional thing. Everything contracts in as you exhale. And then inhale up. And then let's just do that lateral stretching side to side. So just moving with the breath here, finding that idea of vinyasa. So fingertips, palm on the right side. As you inhale, stretch over. And then let's take an exhale here. Inhale up to center. Exhale, stretching over. Inhaling up. Exhale. So finding this vinyasa, this flow. When we hear the vinyasas, kind of just, we always think of doing those chaturangas and the planks and the up dogs. So yes, that is absolutely a vinyasa. But this is as well. So this idea of vinyasa happens anytime we're connecting the movement with the breath. We start to find this rhythm in our body, which is really important. We're actually very rhythmic creatures. Just walking has a rhythm. And you might notice as you move here, it's actually easier to quiet the mind. A few more. Just enjoying how this feels. There's no rush. You're moving with the rhythm of your breath. Some days that's a little faster, some days that's a little slower. Good, so finishing up on the left side. Coming back to center, just taking a couple of breaths here. Maybe closing your eyes, going inward. How are you feeling differently already? So it doesn't take much breath, much work to really shift how we're feeling, which is a cool thing. So we are going to flip around, come to our tabletop position, and we're going to start to move into cat-cow. So again, finding another simple little vinyasa here, where we start to warm up the spine, sync up movement and breath. So as you set up here, check to see that your shoulders are over your wrists. Fingers spread a lot, so downward facing dog hands, and this is easy to forget, but as we spread those fingers and press down, it does a couple things. It offers a lot of support to the wrists, stretches them out, but helps to strengthen them as well. But it also starts to engage the arms. So you can feel that upper arm especially start to turn on. That inner arm bicep starts to wrap to the outer arm tricep. And then you also get this beautiful widening across the backs of your shoulders. Knees are underneath hips. You can just glance down and see that that's happening. And here we go. As you inhale, arching into your lower back, it might be the tiniest move in the morning here. As you exhale, press the mat away. Let the neck release down. It's lengthening. Inhale, arch. Exhaling, rounding. Continuing like that. If your eyes are open, your gaze is soft and gentle. You're just kind of occupying your space, not worried about the person next to you. You also might be doing this with eyes closed. So for a lot of us, that just helps us to stay focused, to keep our practice really internal, so we can, again, notice things. As we move into this, you're going to find that you start to find a little more space in your back. A little more flexibility in your spine. Couple more rounds. Good. As you inhale, come back to your neutral spine. You're neither arching nor rounding. Walk your hands forward a couple of inches. So we're giving ourselves space for a downward dog. So we want the wrists slightly ahead of the shoulders here. Curl your toes under. Here we go. Downward dog. The dogs are probably checking you out and saying, it's okay for a human downward dog, but I can do better. So I just want you to find a little movement here, anything that feels good. This first downward dog of the day, nice bend in the knees, can feel really good. You can kind of come up to your tippy toes as you do that, and then notice how you can lengthen those sit bones up towards the ceiling. Finding that lengthening through the sides of your torso. You might be getting some good clicks and cracks like I am. We'll see if the mic picks that up. Your neck is, again, lengthening in the back. So your ears are lining up with your biceps. Your gaze is between your feet. Let's come up onto tippy toes with that nice bend in the knees. And then we're going to start to shift our heels to the right, so you're on your toes, and then release the feet down. They might not make it all the way. You move towards bringing the legs to straight. If that's happening, you're pressing to the inner edge of the right foot, so the mound of the big toe, and then you're pressing to the outer edge of the left foot. And you should be feeling a great little stretch. Maybe it's not so great. That's okay. Back out a little bit if you need to. And then come back up. So toes come to center, bend in the knees, lifting your heels, and then shift your toes to face to the right, and then release your feet back any amount. Kind of this just like funky downward dog. Press more to the inner edge of that left foot, so the mound of the big toe, and then the outer edge, roll to the outer edge of that right foot. Ooh. Kind of almost gets into that sciatic lower back area. Are you breathing? If you're not, please do. The good thing about breath is that you can only hold it so long before you take an inhale. All right, so back up to tippy toes, sit bone stretch, melt your heels back, any amount. And then we start to walk our hands back to meet our feet, deep bend in the knees. These uttanasanas, I find them to be very challenging when I'm warm and on a good day, but in the morning when we're tight, they're extra intense. So that bend in the knees is going to help you find length in your spine. You're grabbing opposite elbows. Imagine that there's a little weight dangling from the top of your head. So it's just releasing down. And one of the things I love about this pose is that I can really hear that ujjayi breath. I don't know if it's the configuration of the arms, it sort of just amplifies the sound. So soak that up. Notice what's happening in your feet. Have you rocked forward? Are you gripping your toes? Are you really heavy in your heels? And in fact, you can even go back and forth. So just noticing what that feels like. And then finding that center place. Nod your head. No. And then just peek to see what arm is crossed in front, and then change. So the opposite arm comes in front. If it feels right in your body, you might start to engage the muscles above the knee. Start to stretch the sit bones up towards the ceiling a little bit. Pause at that place where it's enough. You can get really tied to this idea that the poses have to look perfect. Like all of the Instagram yogis. The poses simply need to feel good in your body and offer you a good stretch, offer you strength. All right, so nod your head yes. And then fingertips release down to the mat. Move really slow. Pull your belly in and up. So kind of turn this into a little core, like a little rag doll. You start to stack the vertebrae in your spine on top of each other. Head is the last thing to come up. So standing nice and tall, finding your Tadasana, mountain pose. Shoulder blades release down your back. Peek down at your feet. They're probably about hip distance apart. For some of us, standing a little closer feels good. Do check to see that your second toe is pointing forward. So that's just a nice little guide for the alignment here. Your tailbone is lengthening down. So often when we stand here, we kind of push the booty back, the chest puffs forward. So direct the tailbone down, belly pulls in and up. Feel the sternum gently lift up towards the ceiling, and we're gonna start to flow. So soak this up, enjoy it. As you inhale, take your arms out nice and wide. As you exhale, you hinge forward, fold in. Inhale, fingertips might be on floor, probably shins or thighs. It's gonna feel better, and it's gonna give you more lengthening through the sides of your waist. As you exhale, you fold in, neck releases down. Inhale, press into your feet, stretch arms out and up. Maybe gaze up, press palms together. As you exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhaling, reaching. As you exhale, swan dive in, feeling really graceful. Inhaling, lengthening, so you're making an L shape, gaze comes forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet, stretch up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart already. Probably feeling this sense of joy as you start to move. Inhaling, reaching. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet, stretch up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. You have two more like that, just moving with your breath. Again, if you want to close your eyes, do so. Otherwise, the gaze is soft and gentle. Exhale, fold. Good, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold in. Good, inhale, stretch up. I said you have two more and then I talked you through it. So this one I'm gonna be quiet so you can hear your breath. Palms come together at your heart when you finish that round. No rush, eyes closed. Put your brain down in your feet. Notice what's happening. So there's these subtle shifts. There's this rocking sensation that we just take for granted. Observe if your shoulders have crept up around your ears, just soften them down. Good, open your eyes, release your hands by your side. And we're gonna step wide here on our mat. Let's grab a block and just have it set up to the right side of your mat, behind that right ankle. So edges of the feet parallel with the edges of the mat, and much like Tadasana, this is just a wide-legged Tadasana. You're releasing your tailbone down, you're feeling your sternum lift from deep within this right hip socket. You turn those toes out to 90 degrees, and then you spin these left toes in. So getting into some standing pose hip stretches here. This inner right thigh is wrapping towards the outer right thigh. This left hip is releasing down. So in our warrior ones, our crescent poses, hips are facing the same direction. We don't have that in this pose. So it's okay to really turn that back foot in, let this hip release down. But then find that little twist in your torso so it's facing forward. Inhale, stretch your arms up. And then just finding a little flow here. So as you exhale, bend into that right knee. It doesn't have to be very deep. Inhale, straighten, arms reach up overhead. Exhaling in, Virabhadrasana 2. Inhale, reach up. 3 more. Soak up that sound of your breath. It's the best soundtrack. Good, and then as we exhale, we come into the hold here. Few breaths, shoulder blades release down. They really like to creep up. It's amazingly hard to hold your arms like this. It builds a lot of strength. And then you do want to have your right knee stacking over your ankle. You might need to go a little wider with your stance. You're pressing to the inner edge of that front foot, and then you're sealing into the back edge of that left hip, and then, or left foot, which helps the hip to release down. Start to bring your gaze out over those right fingertips. As you press to the inner edge of the right foot, it feels like you're pressing that knee back. So if you were by a wall, you'd be pressing that knee into the wall. That's going to give you that beautiful hip stretch. It might not be so beautiful in your body. Call it beautiful. See if that makes it feel easier. Okay, so keep the legs disengaged. We're going to reverse the warrior here. So inhale, lightly reach these left fingertips down your back. You could take a little wrap here if you wanted. If you're doing that, press the left shoulder, head back. Spin the pinky side of the hand, right hand down, yes. So the palm is spinning behind you. Maybe gaze up underneath your arm. We've been in this shape in our upper body already. And then we inhale up. And then we're going to start to extend forward. So legs stay the same. So a couple options. Elbow just might reach on that or settle on that right leg. Maybe you take your hand behind you on your block. Fingertips could also be on the floor. Seal more into the back edge of the foot. Sometimes in this pose, it helps to sneak that back foot in a little bit. You're wrapping those right ribs up towards the ceiling, maybe gazing up over or up to that left thumb. Spin that left palm to face forward and then reach up and over. We've been in this shape. So this beautiful lateral stretch. Good, inhale, come on up. Okay, so parallel your feet. We're gonna step the feet together. It's a nice long hold with legs wide. Slow your breath down if it started to speed up. And we're gonna come back to that side and we're just gonna turn that sequence into this nice little flow. All right, so here we go. Right leg turns out, left toes turn in, your right heel is intersecting that left arch. Inhale, arms lift up. As you exhale, sink in. I'm gonna sneak my front foot forward. Inhale, come into reverse warrior. As you exhale, find this extended side angle pose. Inhale, pause here as you exhale. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, Parsvakonasana. One more, inhale. Take an exhale, sink in, and then inhale, reverse your warrior. Good. Making your way into your Parsvakonasana on that exhale. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, sink in. You're feeling the burn in this right leg. You're welcome. Inhale, straighten that leg. Parallel your feet. We're going to take a nice little forward fold here. So interlacing your fingers at the small of your back. If that's not happening, you could grab a strap and hold on. You could also just hold elbows here. So shoulder heads are pressing back wherever you're at, rooting into the feet, feeling the arches engage. Hinge forward at your waist. Let the neck release. Listen to the rhythm of your breath. These forward folds are nice cooling poses. So beautiful counter to that really strong work we just did with that warrior flow sequence. Are you holding your neck? Let the back of the neck lengthen. Center of the forehead is melting towards the mat any amount. If you're a little more flexible in your shoulders, your palms are pressing together. You're directing your wrists forward any amount. Are you gripping your toes? Lift them up, spread them, press them down. It's going to weight's very evenly distributed here. Inhale. Come on up. Quick little mini break again. Finding your Tadasana. How does it feel? So hopefully it feels like you're standing a little bit taller. And then we're going to do our second side here. So setting up your block to the other side of the mat, stepping nice and wide. So feel the outer edges of the feet squeeze in towards the midline. Hips are squeezing in towards the midline. Tailbone releases down. Lower belly pulls in and up. From deep within this left hip socket, turn that leg out to 90 degrees. So hip stretch here. Right toes spin in a good amount. Adjust your torso so it's facing forward. Little gentle twist. Inhale, arms reach. As you exhale, sink in. Inhale up. Exhaling in. So this is just called getting in the mood for Warrior Two. I remember how rough these poses were when I first started yoga. A couple more. They do get easier. And then here we come for the hold. So slide that front foot forward any amount if you need to. Engage the arms, feel the inner arm wrap towards the outer arm. Left knee pressing back as you press into the mound of the big toe. Bring your gaze out over those left fingertips. Smile. Legs stay exactly like this. So nice and strong. Reverse your warrior here. Your real light touch on that right leg. You're spinning ribs up towards the ceiling, maybe gazing up underneath that top arm. You're feeling the burn in your legs. That's okay, that's good. Inhale up. And then exhale, we come into our extended side angle pose. So it's warrior two in the legs, triangle pose in the upper body. Elbow could be resting on knee. You could have your fingertips on the block or the floor behind you. If you're doing that, you're sealing this left knee into that upper arm. So it helps you, as you do that, you get a little more leverage to twist. Good, maybe bring your gaze up. Spin your right palm to face forward, reach that arm over. Oof. Energize the fingers. It's like you're shooting energy through your jazz hand. As you do that, you seal into the back edge of that right foot. Soften the muscles in your face if you've started to clench your jaw. This is indeed hard. Inhale, strong legs. Find your warrior two. Press to the inner edge of that left foot to straighten your legs. Step left foot in, then right. Oh, sigh of relief. The best part of poses oftentimes is coming out in them. So slowing your breath down if it started to speed up here. Good, and then stepping wide again. So that little flow sequence. Left leg turns out, right toes turn in. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Exhale, find your extended side angle pose. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, sink in. Feel that gravitas. Inhale, reverse warrior. What am I doing? Exhale, Parsvakonasana. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, sink in. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Spin your ribs up towards the ceiling. Exhale into your Parsvakonasana. We're almost there. Inhale. Exhale, sink in. Inhale, press to the inner edge of that foot to straighten your leg. Parallel your feet. And then step them together. Little break. And then we're going to come into that forward fold again. So legs step wide. Interlace your fingers the way that feels easy to do. And then I want you to switch it up. So the opposite index and thumb on top. So it's the way that feels weird. And again, if you did this variation, same thing, just switch the cross. If you have your strap, just use that, that's good. All right, here we go. Inhale, heart stretches up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in. And you might be getting a little more lengthening, a little more release. So that's a beautiful thing about approaching the poses a couple of times. Wrists directing forward any amount. This is such an intense shoulder stretch. So you're sending your exhale there. Imagine that it's creating space, creating ease, even if it's just the tiniest amount. Good. As you inhale, press into your feet. Lead with your heart, nice flat back, rise on up. Step your feet together. So palms facing forward in your Tadasana, this openness across your heart and chest. Feel like a lovely, graceful ballerina. Even you, Carl. And then we're gonna come to seated. So, and actually, let's come onto our backs. We're gonna lay down here and we're gonna come into our reclining pigeon pose, which is this lovely, lovely hip opener. And of course, we just opened up the hips in those standing poses. So it's as though you're gonna come into your bridge pose here. This is that setup. So ankles are underneath your knees, maybe a little further forward, especially if you know you're tighter in your hips. That might be a really nice variation. We're gonna take our right ankle, cross it above that left knee, flex your right foot a lot. So that helps to protect the knee. It's engaging all of the muscles there. You can take your right hand and then gently press into the side of that right thigh, drawing it forward. And you'll also feel your tailbone start to extend forward. So that curve, that natural curve in the lumbar spine might start to flatten ever so slightly. You can start to let your breath shift a little bit here. So maybe you're not engaging in that deep ujjayi. It's fine if you want to stay with that. But you could just be finding a more normal sounding breath. You're still inhaling and exhaling through your nose, but it's a little easier. And you're also lengthening your breath out at this point. So if you'd like to go a little deeper with this, you can walk that left foot in a little closer. You might start to bend that left knee in. You're gonna take your right hand, you've made a little figure four here. You're gonna reach through that and then interlace your fingers behind your left thigh or your shin. Wherever you're at, you're pulling that left leg in closer to your body. You're gonna feel that up the intensity in that right hip. Check in with that right foot again, see if it's flexing. As you do that, notice if you start to flex the left foot too. It usually happens. It's hard to do one at a time for some reason. You might take your elbow and wedge it into that right thigh. And I should say too, you also want to have your the back of your body resting on the mat. So if you're a little tighter in the upper body, go less deep. You could also put a blanket or a block underneath your head. That might help the pose be a little more comfortable. Good. So we got a few more breaths here. This is intense. Do back out a little bit. So it's this fine line between pushing ourselves, feeling the stretch, and pushing ourselves too far and getting injured. And we want to be doing this when we're, 100. So we have to be mindful now. We have to pay attention to how we're using our body. It doesn't have to be yoga is competitive sport, which seems obvious, but American yoga is kind of competitive sport oftentimes. All right, so one more deep inhale. Good, exhale. Release your left foot down to the mat if you took that variation. Uncross the right ankle. So make any little adjustments that you need to. This side might be tighter. So if you get into the pose and you need to walk that right foot forward, by all means do so. So crossing left ankle above the right knee, flexing your left foot. Just starting out here, no place to go. We're gonna just kind of move into this nice and slow. You can take your left hand, press into the side of that left thigh. So you're directing that knee forward. And already a lot of stuff going on in that hip. I can feel this in my glute. You might even be getting a little hamstring at the top of that muscle. So entire hip area, really intense. There's all of these big muscles attaching. Things get tight. Okay, so if you want to go a little deeper, you begin to bend your right knee into your chest, interlace fingers around your thigh or your shin, and then just use that strength in your arms to help pull that right leg towards your chest any amount, and then maybe wedge that elbow into the thigh. Directing it forward. And then try to remember how the other side felt. How does that compare to this side? And just making a little note. It certainly doesn't need to look like the other side, especially if this is the tighter side in your body. You're just observing, you're building your awareness. A few more good breaths. Nice deep inhale. And then full complete exhale, release. If you lifted that right leg up off the mat, uncross that left ankle, and then take your feet wide as your mat, and then let's bring our arms out in a T shape, and then just start to windshield wiper your legs back and forth here. Do this a few rounds. Just get a nice release in the lower back. Good. And then when the knees are off to the right, just leave them there. You could stay like this. You might take right ankle above left knee. If that feels like too much, just uncross. And then perhaps you start to bring your gaze out over your left fingertips. Shoulder blades are heavy in the mat here. So if you're tighter in the shoulders, and probably it would be that left one that's lifting up right now, slide a blanket or a block just to give yourself a little support. Good. So uncross that right ankle if you took that variation. So feet are wide, knees drop to the opposite side. Just being here like this is beautiful. It's a nice little twist to end our practice. If you do want to take left ankle above that right knee, you are welcome to do so. And then you might start to bring your gaze out over right fingertips. If that's not working, you're just gazing straight up at the ceiling. Good. Uncross that left ankle. Knees come up to center. Squeeze them into your chest. Nice and easy. Rock a little bit from side to side. And we're going to come into our Shavasana. So you can do classic Shavasana, arms by your side, palms facing up, shoulders heavy, legs extended a little wider than hips distance. You just allow the toes to turn out. If there is any sensation in your lower back, so for a lot of us, this can be intense, a rolled up blanket underneath your knees will offer a little release and relief. Otherwise, you can take your feet as wide as your mat, let your knees fall in towards each other. Deep inhale. Sigh the breath out, ha. And then soak up these final few moments of your yoga practice. Let yourself be quiet and calm here. Melt in. Asato ma sat gamaya. Tamaso ma joy ti gamaya. Mrityormamritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Let your next inhale be deeper. And let the breath go. Start to wiggle your fingers and toes, yawn, stretch. So you're bringing gentle movement back to your body. You're bringing your awareness back to your body. And staying soft and quiet, roll to one side or the other, just finding the fetal position for a moment as you transition out of your Shavasana. And you're going to use your hands to help you press up to comfortable seat. So finding Sukhasana again. We didn't start class here, but we did move here early on. And I want you to notice how it feels different. So hopefully there is a greater sense of ease. There's a sense of length in your spine. Even this sense of easiness and lightness. Send yourself love and gratitude for showing up and working hard. And promise yourself that you're going to carry this feeling with you into the rest of your weekend ahead.